Have you ever felt like your prayers bounce off the ceiling, fading into a silence that feels endless? Breathe in. Feel that weight pressing on your chest, the heaviness in your arms, the ache behind your eyes. Not the quiet that brings rest, but the kind that makes you question if anyone is really listening at all. Maybe you're tired of asking the same questions, tired of waiting for answers that never seem to come. You lie awake at night, replaying every moment, searching for a sign that you're not invisible. Every breath feels like another step through fog, uncertain, hoping that somehow you'll find your way. And yet, despite the silence, despite the doubt, you keep going. You whisper words into the darkness, believing, almost against your own will, that they matter. Maybe you wonder if your story is stuck, if the ending you hope for is drifting further away with every passing day. But what if the silence isn't the end of your story? What if it's not abandonment, but something else entirely? An invisible hand at work, quietly preparing something you can't see yet. Breathe out. Let yourself settle into the mystery. Because sometimes, the most important chapters are written when we least expect them. Some days, it feels like you're carrying a weight you can't name. Something lodged deep inside, pressing against your chest, settling into your bones. Maybe you've gotten so used to it that it almost feels normal, like waking up tired or going to sleep with questions echoing in the dark. How long have you been carrying this? When was the last time you let yourself truly feel it, instead of pushing it away or pretending it wasn't there? It's strange how easy it is to hide pain, even from yourself, to smile and nod and say you're fine when you're not even sure what fine means anymore. Sometimes, you wonder if you're the only one who feels this way, like everyone else seems to manage, while you're barely holding the pieces together. Maybe you look at others and think they must have something you don't. More strength, more certainty, more faith. But even the strongest have days when their hearts feel empty, when hope is a faint memory. Maybe you felt ashamed for doubting, for not being enough, for thinking you should be braver, stronger, more grateful. Maybe you've whispered silent apologies for your exhaustion, as if tiredness was a flaw instead of fact of being human. What if nobody ever told you that even those who seem steady have storms inside? What if it's okay that sometimes you don't know what to say, or how to pray, or even what you're hoping for anymore? There are seasons when every word feels heavy, every day feels long, and you wonder if anyone at all, sees what you're carrying. Maybe you've hidden your sadness so well, you've lost sight of it yourself. But there's no shame in feeling lost. No shame in being tired. No shame in wondering if you'll ever feel whole again. There are moments when everything is quiet, and in that hush, something almost imperceptible stirs beneath the surface. Like seeds hidden in the darkness, pressing gently against the soil, not yet breaking through, but already reaching for some distant warmth. Sometimes, the air changes before the rain comes. A softness, a promise you can almost taste, but never quite see. There's a kind of waiting that isn't empty. Maybe the silence is a womb, holding something fragile, letting it form in the dark where no one's eyes can rush it. You remember, don't you, those nights when you thought you would not make it to morning, but somehow your heart kept beating, one quiet rhythm after another. There have been days when you stood up and you're still not sure how, as if an unseen hand steadied you, or a quiet whisper gathered your pieces, just enough to take another step. You can't name the source, but you remember the relief, the smallest comfort, a breath of air when you needed it most. It's easy to forget these gentle moments, to overlook the way light seeps in at the edge of night, slow and unhurried. Yet, there are times when hope is less a fire and more a flicker, a soft glow behind closed eyes, a hush that lingers when you run out of words. Maybe what feels like absence is really a space being prepared. Maybe the waiting is not punishment, but a quiet invitation to listen, to soften, to let the roots grow deep where no one else can see. Somehow, even here, you sense a shift, subtle, like the first green after winter or the hush before dawn. It isn't an answer, and it's not certainty, but it's something. A small, persistent breath that keeps you company in the dark, reminding you that unseen things are still moving, and stories can keep growing, even when you can't see the ending yet. Maybe what you're walking through isn't abandonment at all. Maybe it's the silence of a God who remains quiet but present. Maybe this darkness isn't a void but a womb. All this waiting, all this aching is not a sign that you've been left behind, but that something deep inside is being formed in secret. Sometimes what feels like the end is really the beginning of something hidden and slow, a gentle unfolding you can't see yet. It's possible you're not standing still. You're being gestated from within. Every pause, every breath held in the hush of uncertainty is a kind of preparation. There is a presence here, veiled and mysterious, like seeds waiting under the surface for their moment to break through. The silence, the waiting, the long nights when hope seems faint, all of it is part of a process that can't be rushed. What if absence is another way of being cared for? What if the hush is not neglect, but attentive love that chooses to work in the quiet, where no one else can see? The silence has a weight, yes, but it also has a purpose. It gathers you in, asks you to listen deeper, to breathe softer, to notice the subtle warmth that lingers even when answers do not. It is possible that the darkness is not punishment, but protection. That the emptiness is not lack, but a space being made ready for something yet to come. Seeds do not shout when they grow. They press silently against the earth, trusting the hidden work. Maybe this is the theme, the silent work of presence, the sacred hush where hope is born in secret. The waiting is not empty. It is a quiet invitation to trust that, even here, the story is still being written. Maybe right now you feel a gentle relief deep inside, or maybe a single tear finally found its way down your cheek. Perhaps what you've heard until now has simply made sense, even if you can't quite put it all into words. If so, that too is faith quietly blooming in places you didn't expect. Sometimes, all it takes is realizing you're not the only one holding your breath in the silence. Not the only one wondering if the story is really being written, even in the quietest chapters. If any part of this story touched something in you, let yourself acknowledge it. Maybe you feel a fragile hope stirring, or maybe you're just grateful to know that waiting isn't empty after all. Let that feeling settle in your chest for a moment. If you want, write an amen, or simply rest in this pause. No words needed. Even a silent nod is enough. If you feel like liking this audio, do it as a way of saying, yes, I'm still here. This still matters to me. Remember, you are not alone in this. Somewhere, someone else is listening too, quietly, perhaps feeling exactly as you do now. There's a silent community being woven between us. People who may never meet, yet share the same ache and the same quiet hope. Sometimes, the most powerful prayers are the ones we whisper in the dark, the ones that sound more like sighs than words. Stay here for a moment, in the hush after the questions, in the space where hope waits to be born. There is something sacred about this waiting. Soon, what has been quietly growing in the dark will be revealed. The next word might be the one your heart has been longing to hear. Maybe now you can see it, a gentle presence that was never far, even in the thickest silence. God never left your side, not once. Not when you thought you'd failed, not when your words ran dry, not when you couldn't feel anything at all. Every sigh, every restless night, every unanswered question, he remained. Quiet, but never absent. Unseen, but never indifferent. There's a freedom in realizing you never had to prove anything. Not your strength, not your faith, not your worth. Jesus never came for the flawless or the unshakably strong. He came for hearts like yours, tired, fragile, honest. Even when you let go, he held on. Even in moments when prayer felt impossible or faith seemed like something that belonged to someone else, he stayed. Not because you earned it, but because love doesn't depend on deserving. Somehow, the story was always being written, even in silence. You were never disqualified by your doubts, never set aside because of your fears. The sacred didn't retreat when you faltered. It drew closer. There are no hoops to jump through, no lines to recite, no perfect way to return. Simply being here, right now, as you are is enough. And maybe, just maybe, Everything you've been longing to hear has already been spoken over you. Words that cross centuries and find you in this very moment. There's something waiting to be revealed, a truth deeper than silence, a promise bigger than uncertainty. The next lines of your story are about to unfold, carrying a message that's been echoing since the beginning. You are seen, you are loved, you are not alone. Maybe you never realized it, but everything you've been feeling, every ache, every silent night, every question already had a name. This journey you are on, with its shadows and silences, is not an uncharted path. Long before your voice trembled or your heart hesitated, these words were written for you. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. That's Psalm 34, verse 18. Let it breathe for a moment, not as an old promise, but as a living pulse that finds you right where you are. This is not a condition, not a test you have to pass or a strength you have to muster. It is not about holding yourself together or pretending to have it all figured out. It is a whisper reaching you in the pause between your thoughts, in the trembling of your hands, in the tiredness you can't explain. You don't have to be brave for this promise to reach you. You don't have to be strong or loud or certain. The nearness spoken here is not reserved for the unwavering, but for the brokenhearted. The rescue is not for the unshakable, but for the crushed. This is not a word that asks you to rise. It's a word that sits with you when you cannot. So even now, in the spaces where you wait and wonder and doubt the ending, this presence finds you. You are not unseen, not unheard. No part of you is too fragile or too uncertain for these words. They do not demand, they cover, they hold, they breathe with you. The Lord is near, even now, especially now. Maybe today your prayer is simply to remain standing, even if your legs feel weak. Faith can be as small as a sigh filled with hope, as quiet as the breath you let out while staring at the ceiling before sleep. It doesn't need to be loud, dramatic, or heroic. Sometimes, faith is just showing up for the ordinary day, letting the silence of your routine cradle you, and trusting that you are seen even in your quiet fatigue. You don't have to run. The seed of the word grows in the dark, slowly, invisibly, while you simply breathe. The sacred is not only found in moments of clarity or triumph, but also in the gentle persistence of your heart that chooses not to give up, even when the answers are missing. The path might be inward, quieter than you expected, and it has already begun. You're already walking, even as you wait. There's no rush, no pressure to perform. The invitation for today is not to act, but to remain. Let the softness of this truth settle in. Your everyday life, your silent prayers, your tired body, all of it is spiritual. Every ordinary moment, every unnoticed breath, carries the presence of a God who is content to sit with you in the quiet, who writes your story gently, even as you doubt the ending. If all you can do today is exist, if all you can manage is to keep breathing, to let your soul rest for a moment, that is enough. Faith is alive, even when it feels small or hidden. The hope that began in you is not lost. It grows in places you cannot see. So let your heart stay open, just as it is. You're already living the story, step by step, breath by breath, held in a love that remains. God, I don't have the right words. Sometimes there aren't any, and I come to you with empty hands and a tired heart. You know every part of me, the shadows I carry, the questions I can't untangle, the quiet aches that linger even when the world moves on. I don't want to pretend strength I don't have. I don't want to cover my doubts with perfect prayers. I just want to be here with you, even if all I offer is my silence. I confess, I'm worn out by the weight I carry. Sometimes faith feels as small as a seed pressed into the earth, invisible, waiting. Sometimes hope is just the next breath I manage to take. But I trust you see me in this valley, in this in-between. I believe you are present even when I can't sense your nearness, even when answers don't come. Thank you for not walking away when I wanted to give up. Thank you for holding me in my honesty, for loving what's fragile instead of what's flawless. Teach me to trust you even when I don't feel it, to stay when I'd rather run, to believe that you are writing a story in me, one that unfolds quietly in the hidden places where no one else sees. Let my ordinary moments be enough. Let my questions and my silence be prayers too. Keep shaping me in the waiting, in the slow turning of days, in the places where I am most unsure. I surrender what I can't fix, and I rest in knowing that I am seen, heard, and loved, right here, right now. Thank you for not needing me to perform for you. Thank you for being the steady presence at the center of my every weakness. Keep writing my story, even when I doubt the ending. Even on days when you feel invisible or unanswered, God is still with you. His presence remains quietly holding you, even when your heart can't feel him near. The seed planted in your spirit today is not forgotten. It will grow in its own time, in the gentle ways only God knows. If today all you managed was a single breath, that is prayer enough. Sometimes existing, just being here, is the most honest act of faith. And you're not alone. You never have been. There is a quiet community walking this journey with you. Each of us carrying our own silent hopes and weariness, yet held together by grace. If these words found a resting place in your soul, let your amen join this circle of trust. If this message brought you comfort, let a simple be your silent gesture of faith. And if you know someone who might need a gentle word in their own silence, share this moment with them. This is a space where you can return whenever you need to breathe, to rest, or to remember that you are loved. You belong here. This is a safe place for your questions, your doubts, and your quiet prayers. If you want to keep walking this path with us, you're always welcome. This place is yours too. Let the gentle truth settle into your heart. You are seen, you are heard, you are loved. Rest now. God is still writing your story, especially in the pauses, especially in the waiting. And every ordinary moment, every silent prayer carries the sacred. Come back whenever your soul needs to remember. You are never alone.